I'll take
Yeah.
one too, James.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm blanking on his name. Troy is going to be joining us, but Diana will not.
Okay, great.
Okay,
There's
but
Jane.
I think we can go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. Glad
Welcome.
to see you all. How's everyone doing? What's the good news?
Good news is I'm still alive and walking around and enjoying life. And
Yes.
everybody that's here is too. It's beautiful.
None of us have COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
And
very
Rob's
good.
running for council. Congratulations.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. All for it.
Yeah, Rob, thanks for doing that.
Yeah, really.
We need young blood in there, you know? That's great.
Yeah, I
Who's
think
been
that's
the youngest council member?
That's-
Do we know who the youngest one ever was?
that
Actually,
I don't.
Youngest one.
I'll go for that.
Hmm.
Good question.
I
Yeah.
see Rudy on the call. Rudy's 29, so she's probably the.
That's too cute. That's good.
That's fine.
And that's it. We have Joy and Ben from the farmer's market here with us.
Oh,
Okay. All right.
We have them with us?
They're here on the call with us.
Okay. All right.
That's good.
Well, let's see. And we're expecting Miles still, I imagine. And James, it's good to see you. How's your shoulder?
Yep, it's hanging in there. See a doctor tomorrow. See if I start physical therapy yet.
Okay. At least it's not hanging out of the socket.
No, it had surgery.
Yeah, I know. I know. I wasn't very good about sending you a get well, but I thought about it.
Yeah,
I
but
thought
you know,
about
I've thought about you might be doing it, so it's okay.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I imagined it.
Oh, good, good, good. Okay, everybody ready to go?
Right. Yep.
All right. And Matt and Sylvia, thank you both for your due diligence and your constancy in being with us. So,
No problem.
okay, we're calling the meeting to order at 6:03. And let's see, do we have any citizen comments as our first point of agenda? And that might be a time when the people that you mentioned, Karen, would want to say anything, although they are vendors, not citizens.
It's open to anybody who attends the meeting. It doesn't have to be residents.
Okay. Could you remind me of the names involved again?
I think it's Joy and Ben.
Okay.
Let's see. I saw Joy join, but I don't see Ben, so it may just be Joy. Joy, can you
Ben's here
unmute
as well.
yourself? There you go.
Thank you.
Yes. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Joy.
Hi.
Could you fill me in as to your role?
Sure. My name is Joy Kosnovsky, and I'm the Deputy Director for Sustainable Food Center, and we run the farmers market in Sunset Valley. And so given the agenda item number 8 on the agenda, Ben and I wanted to be here tonight should you guys have questions or even want to, engage with us on any of the matters regarding item number 8.
Okay. I was going to say that the principal purpose of what we were going to do this evening, and we'd have to do a lot more exploring after that, was going to be to look at the proposal and then let the committee members discuss it. And so it'd be helpful if you're there, if they have questions for you, and then vote on whether or not that's something we would want to pursue or even be able to pursue from a sort of legal, political perspective. But appreciate you being here. I imagine there will be less action than you might expect. But glad you're here. Anything that you wanted to say before we move forward? Joy?
Yeah, I've read, I think primarily I've read the proposal. And so I was looking forward primarily to listening to the discussion tonight. And again, if there are, any questions that you'd like to ask of me, I'm open for that. But I really wanted to be here to listen first and foremost.
Okay, that's great. All right, Joy, thank you very much. So let's move then. Any other citizen comments, by the way, that I don't know of? No. Okay. So,
Sasha, you might want to have Ben introduce himself too. I think he's with
oh,
us.
has he arrived? I'm sorry, I didn't know he was here yet.
Absolutely. Hi, Kyle. I'm Ben Hassan. I'm the Market Operations Manager. I've been working the markets for the past several years. And just similar to what Joy said, here if y'all have any questions when it comes to item 8 that you want answered around how market works, onboarding and expectations for vendors, etc.
Excellent.
If I may, Sasha, excuse me, if I may, Ben, I just want to say hello because we've talked on the phone. This is Ruth
Hi again, Ruth.
about the garage sale stuff. You remember that? Maybe you don't, or maybe his mic's off. But anyway, I want to say hi.
I do. I remember it. Hello again.
That's great. All right, welcome to both of you, Joy and Ben. And I was checking this. I would like to see if there are any comments about the minutes, which were sent out. Yes, Ruth.
I believe the motion that about putting James and John and Rob and James and Joe on a subgroup was primarily to pursue the potentiality of Christmas decorations. It wasn't to go through all of the short-term list. The minutes say it was for the short-term, but I thought it was just to pursue the possibility of a Christmas decoration thing.
Ah,
Am I right?
Go ahead, John.
What?
It's hot now.
do
That's not how I saw it. I thought we were gonna, well, doesn't matter because nothing happened anyway.
But was the motion that passed that you guys were in charge of going over the short-term list, or was it just specifically
Short-term
that
list, yeah.
Christmas decorating thing? It was the whole short-term list. Okay, my mistake then. All good.
that's what I understood too. Anybody not understand that aside from Ruth? Okay. It's okay. You're allowed to be human here, as well demonstrated by your chair, who is sitting in the cool weather in Wisconsin today and quite happy about it.
Rub it in, Sasha.
I know I shouldn't say anything because people will hate me. Rob, did you have your hand up?
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Oh, okay.
I think he's just had his fork up.
Probably both.
I think it was just, there we go.
Did anybody want to second that motion?
Second it.
Okay, got a motion by Rob, seconded by James to accept the minutes as written. Sylvia or Matt, do you want to do the vote, or how do you want to do it?
Yes, if they could submit their vote via chat, that would be great.
Does everybody know how to do that?
If not, we can call roll. Let me get the roll call up.
Aye.
Okay, so let's start with, sorry, Sasha,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Miles,
Not here.
James,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Troy,
Abstain, I wasn't there.
Okay.
Diana,
Abstain,
Not-
she wasn't there.
Ruth,
Aye, aye, aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Irina,
Not here.
Not here.
okay, motion passes.
Okay. Excellent. Welcome, Troy. I can't see you, but I know you're there. So that's great. Thank you for being here. All right. I just had one question. I'm just deviating a second. Are the three of you who were elected for the short-term possibilities okay with that versus just Christmas? Yes? Okay, great. Just want to get that clear in my head. Thank you. Okay. It looks like we are ready for you, Karen, and I know it's been an exciting time recently.
To say the least. Rob,
Yeah.
just wait till what you're in for.
Oh my,
That's all I gotta say.
don't discourage him beforehand.
It's a lot of work. So the city, the mayor has submitted the budget, and it's here. The attachment is here, the link to it. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it. We started the presentation at last night's meeting, but we did not get to finish it or hear much of the citizen input on it. So I would really be interested tonight to hear your thoughts on the budget. The main thing for the Arts Commission's consideration is that the mayor did not include any funding for the Art Fest or any other one-day events in this budget. So that currently is at zero, and if you have thoughts on that, I'd love to hear them. Also, no funding in the budget for the general fund request. However, I do have a note that the storage shed is one of the things I'm going to ask to be put back in for funding until there's a plan at the city hall to move all of that to the complex. Because right now, when I talked to Sylvia, they were talking about a shed, and I don't know how many of you've been in that shed that we had all our stuff stored in, but it was infested with rats and full of urine and destroyed our flags. And so I don't want to move our stuff to a situation like that again.
No.
I think it's good to put it at the complex, but it needs to be in a safe and secure place because we do have a lot of equipment. So I'm going to ask for that to be put back in at $1,600. And then if a plan is put together, we can move everything sometime during the year, and then that money will go. And that's pretty much all I have. It's the focus of council.
Thank you.
Final budget approval is, I believe, on the 12th of September.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good.
On the 15th, Karen.
15th?
Yes, and we have space for one more meeting, the 22nd, if it needs to go that far.
Great.
So it changed the date, or was it always that date?
No, it's been the 1st and the 15th of September.
Okay.
The first is the next council meeting will be the public hearing. So that will be the big, the opportunity for citizen comments.
Terry, I see your hand.
Oh, thank you. Karen invited comments on her liaison report, and in regard to the hot funds, it was implied that there weren't monies in the hot fund account because the hotel's not paying their bills. I don't think they paid their utility bill, and they haven't paid the tax. They've retained the tax on any occupancy that they have had during the coronavirus epidemic. But there's money there. And I think the Budget and Finance did fund it at a reduced level, not the full level. I think we should advocate for, let's just be honest and reasonable about this. If we don't think that we can't have a art fest in the spring, we shouldn't ask for the money.
Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of the general feeling, Terry. And because the order has been extended through December now, and who knows when we're going to be able to have large public gatherings again. Yes, there is money in the account. I think it's around 400 and something right now. There's 230 encumbered for the marketing contract. But if you don't feel like you can pull off a festival, or it won't be time to do it, or we won't be allowed to do it, then you probably shouldn't ask for the funding. I agree, but finance did approve, but bronze level.
Okay, hang on.
So do we want to move to agenda items? Go ahead and move to the agenda item 6, because that's when we were going to discuss.
Yes, thank you, Matt. That was what I was about to say. If we could hold off a little bit on getting to item number 6, although Karen, you did ask for feedback, but we have a section open for that.
Understood.
Okay.
Answering the question.
We're not going to not come back to it because it's pretty critical.
Yep.
But I think we had just allocated a short amount of time to see if there were any small group reports, because we have at least 2 small groups functioning now. And I think that also includes the work that you did with CED, Ruth, and you had sent in something today. So this might be a good time for you, and then for if any of the others that are on the small groups have done anything, to just quickly discuss what. So is that okay, Ruth? Could you do that? Go for it.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was first.
Oh, well, I know you have a report.
Well, I sent a long email to CED, and the next day I got a reply from Penny asking me about another subject. So, and their schedule is pretty full of what ours is, which is the budget, and just figuring out what to do with our what we've been tasked to do despite COVID. So they didn't refuse and they didn't acknowledge. So I don't know. I articulated as best I could. If you want to see it, Matt's got a copy of the email I sent them.
Okay.
Just basically describing what we saw as it would be something that we saw would take 2 years, and we wanted to start now talking to CED about it. We saw them as more along the commissioning the business side of it, and we would be commissioning the art side of it. And gave them some links to some other cities, Austin's Guitars back when Gibson was doing that thing, and Wimberley's Boots, and Hutto's Hippos, and Virginia Beach had some dolphins, I think I put in there too. But
Yeah.
anyway, we all know what I'm talking about. They just didn't bite. So I guess I'll send it again later if you want me to. I mean, I guess you should tell me what you want me to do.
Well, I think probably the best thing to do would be wait till I'll come right to you, Terry, one sec. Wait till the budget thing settles down a bit and then go back to them again and say, okay, is this something of interest? Terry.
Right. Park it.
Terry?
Yeah, the CED has a history of not communicating with other committees. So when the time comes, I think this is not something, unless we want to change our civic atmosphere and the environment in Sunset Valley where we are respectful to each other and communicate, even if they just say, I read this, I acknowledge it, can't deal with it at this time, some kind of communication, I think is really necessary if we want that to be part of the culture. We want to continue that as part of the culture in Sunset Valley. So so I think we need to decide at what point that we need to, for our chair to contact their chair and say, please give us a response. We respect you, now you respect us.
That's a great idea, Terry, and I will take responsibility for doing that. Okay?
I do have plans to attend the next meeting. This previous one I didn't attend. I had out of town guests, but nothing of our concern was on their agenda anyway. It was pretty much budget.
Okay. Yes, I will make sure to do that before you go to meet with them. It's next month still, or is it later this month? Next month, though.
Beginning of September.
Okay, that sounds like a great idea, Terry, and you're right. Since there's been so much discussion about dogging and all kinds of strange things recently, All right, so let's see. Thank you, Ruth, for that. Did the new idea guys, short-term idea guys, did you have a chance to meet at all or not really? Yes, Rob.
I'll go for this one. We did not get a chance to meet, so I look back through the minutes, and seeing as how I seconded it, I'll jump on that fault grenade. But
we don't want a future council member jumping on a grenade.
But Joe and John, I'm going to be reaching out to you in like a week or two, so that we can like meet in about 2 weeks, so that we can actually get something done.
Great. That's good. That's kind of what I thought would happen, but I just want to give you an opportunity unless you had a chance. All right. Now, the other thing that we kind of tacked on here is the ideas to revisit list. Matt and I have been talking around trying to figure out where is that supposed to go. And I think what we're trying to do is create a parking lot different than City Hall's parking lot, but I mean, to the current budgetary parking lot, but just a list of ideas that we want to make sure to keep in mind. And so what we may do is, I guess what I wanted to suggest is that we will have a ideas to revisit list that will be separate from the documents, but that will be kind of linked to them. So anytime there's a new idea that's been proposed that we want to go back to, we can make sure to keep it written down there so we don't lose track of it, because it seems easy, especially more in these COVID days, to lose track of stuff than not. Okay, is everybody in agreement that that would be okay?
All right, I agree.
Okay.
Yes.
One thing that's on the list so far is, Ruth, you mentioned at the last meeting, like a possible list of like Sunset Valley creative types, creative artists, and you mentioned that. And then I believe it was Terry, did you say that there's some residents working on that, or there already is a list, or?
Yeah, well, what's being done is that we're in the process of building a database. It's really an artist registry, and it's an artist in the broadest sense: performing arts, visual arts, etc. But we can start, anybody that sends in their name, we can just start building it. And it's a civic project, not tied back into the city or city government. So that therefore we don't have to deal with the necessary red tape that government has in order to do things.
So Terry, where do people submit their information?
Well, if they can just contact me right now at
Okay.
sunsetdude@mac.com, and I'll take it from there.
That's great. Good, good. Yeah.
Thanks, dude.
The Dude Arena. What? Did I hear somebody saying something? No. Okay. Then we can, now the topic of such juicy interest to everybody, the discussion about the budget. So is everybody pretty clear what happened with the budget?
Where are we?
I'm not.
Yes, Terry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people aren't clear, and they're not. It's the digitized database for accounting has a lot of information in it, but you have to really be familiar with it and its nuances, and in order to understand it in a I would just call it in a walking around street way where you're familiar with it. I know that the Budget and Finance Committee has asked for basically a kind of a compare and contrast of the mayor's budget and what was submitted by Budget and Finance to make it clearer. And if the committee so desires, the commission so desires, I'll say that you get a copy of that. That'll help you follow what was recommended from the citizen group, Budget and Finance, and then what the mayor compiled from staff and the citizen input.
Okay. Ruth? Ruth?
So I was basically wanted to ask Karen what Terry just explained, and that is, we went out of budget and finance having our bronze budget intact, and then the mayor did stuff to it. So what was, it sounded like everything was cut. Was there anything left in?
So basically, the mayor's budget is essential services and all of the programmatics, the things that P&E and other committees, what we wanted, what CED wanted, are all what's in a parking lot. It was called a parking lot. So it's a list of things that can be brought back or, discussed to council to be brought back. So that's kind of how it's set up. It's that long list. It includes both the request for the Hot Fund, Art Fest money, and the request that we had for the general fund. And that's all now in the parking lot. So the task ahead is for council and citizens through input to talk about what they'd like to see in the budget. And that's the next hearing.
So after the
I'm
mayor,
happy to go through it in detail because I think there's some misconception with Terry's comment. So happy to go
So-
through it.
given the stuff that's in the parking lot, there is nothing that we originally had in our bronze budget that made it to the mayor's budget. How much does the mayor's budget count for all the budget, or is there the extra that we need to fight over with these parking lot items?
There's sufficient. If you guys will let me go through that, I think it'll probably put away all of the bad information that's going on out there. We should have done this last night at the council meeting, but the other item ran long. And so literally you guys are going to be the first that hear this presentation, even before the council.
Oh my God.
Let's hear it.
All right, so the first thing I want to say is there is a digital version. When you, this is what the digital version looks like. But there is also a paper version. So I want to put that rumor to bed, Terry. Please help me put that rumor to bed. On the city's website, at the link that says city budget, there is a link that says mayor's proposed budget. There is the paper document. So let's get away from saying that there is no paper document. That's the first thing. The second thing is there's also a summary at a glance that shows in the appendix all of the detail sheets, and also, this is probably the most important document for everybody to understand. So this is, I'm going to try to stop scrolling. This is the budget summary. This is how you and I would manage our household expenses, right? How much money do I have coming into my bank in the beginning of the year? How much income can I expect? How much additional revenue can I expect? What am I going to spend? And then what am I going to have left? Is there a profit or is there a loss? And then what should my bank account look like at the end of the year? So let's get the first misconception out there. So the Hot Fund, when people say there's no money out there, yes, the $230,000 that's allocated right now, there's about $690,000. The 230's been taken out, plus some other expenses. The hotel occupancy fund is expected to start this year with $403,000. Okay, it's only expected to bring in $27.5. Now, I will tell you, he's on pace right now to not even meet the $27.5. He's currently paying about $1,600 a month. I will also tell you that he is in arrears in excess of almost $100,000 between the Hot Fund that he owes us because he collects it and he's supposed to pay it. His patrons have already paid it, so he owes that money to Sunset Valley. Plus, he has a very large utility bill that's owed. The only thing that was funded out of that Hot Fund was $10,000. And so the mayor put the rest of it on the parking lot that I will show you. So that left in the general fund to be allocated to those parking lot items about $292,000. We've since found an error where there was a double counting for a staff member. So that number is going to go up to about $325,000. There is $325,000 that can either, one, fall to reserves, or two, be allocated to a program, a service, whatever the council deems appropriate. So let's get that out of the way first. Anybody have any questions about that?
So you're saying that the $325,000 is not reserve money, it's available hot funds money?
It is available general fund.
General.
Oh, general, okay.
Mhm.
Sorry. Anyone else have questions?
Yeah, because we're going to do a deeper dive here in a minute.
Terry? And then
So
John.
there's around 400,000, Sylvia, in hot funds that'll be available.
Yes, 403,000. That's the beginning balance up on top. When I got here, I was beat over the head that we needed to go back to the Barbara Wilson version of budgeting. And I went and dug that out, and I couldn't agree more. It looks like what you and I see when we do our bills every month.
Oh, here's the 403, okay. John, did you have a question?
Yes, sorry, the 325,000 again, where's that coming from?
So here in the general fund, we have 3.879 that we're expected to receive in revenue. We're only expensing 3.5 million of that, and we have an expected balance, so to speak, profit of 292,000. So that was before we found an error. Like I said, we found an error of about $25,000 where the public works director had been double counted in a fund. So this number right here will change to about $325,000. In addition, if we continue to track right now, this revenue right here at 3.587, imagine in your own household, you are working 40 hours a week and your boss says, we've got to cut back a little bit. So we're going to take one day off. You're only going to work 32 hours a week or 30 hours a week or so. We make some adjustment, right? So that's this estimate, 3.587. So then your boss, you ask your boss, hey, can I take some extra shifts from a coworker if somebody needs to take off? And your boss says, yes, great. So you have to set your household budget at least 3.587 and not go over that because you don't know if you're ever going to get to pick up any shifts. But let's say that you do. Well, the same thing is happening with the general fund. We made a very, very aggressive estimate on revenues being low, and they're actually coming in a little bit higher. So the council is going to have to make a decision. This amount of money at the very end, the 325, that is an estimate based on a reduction of revenues that was very aggressive. The council will need to make a decision about where that goes. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen until much after budget adoption, when we get near the end of the year and we begin doing reconciliation. So I often hear the comments about how did we renew the city finances so much after we paid, it wasn't supposed to happen for 5 years, because these are all estimates. And so at the end of the year, you guys should have a report that says, hey, you know what? You were able to put in 40 extra hours of overtime, so you had this much additional income. Does everybody understand that?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So, any other questions before we dive? Okay, hold your breath. So, the mayor's, the digital budget is, there's her transmittal letter. There is the timeline. This is incorrect. It was advertised a little bit differently. I wanted to make sure that everybody knew we are solvent. And then here's, again, that sheet that I just showed you, the budget at a glance. It's really a balance sheet. And just imagine you having 9 checking accounts that you have to manage, or 2 checking accounts, 2 savings accounts, an investment account, an operating account. It's all of those funds have to balance internally. So the budget, what you see right here, 516,000 is the 516,000 that's up here. This 292, so 140 goes back to the street fund, 17.5 should go back to the hotel occupancy fund, and 67 should go back to the venue fund. It's the general fund money that we're talking about. So that 516 matches that 516. So the mayor goes into what her 9 differences were essentially. So she has said no increases to solid waste. And she negated the planning and environmental's recommendation and the budget and finance recommendation of charging residents $10 a month for solid waste. She took that out. So what that did is it increased expenses in the solid waste account, or reduced revenue, I should say, in the solid waste account by $33,275. So if the solid waste fund isn't making any money, then that $33,275 has to come from somewhere, and it comes from the general fund. So that was an early on hit in the general fund. In the capital fund, I've been, like, how did you cut $1 million? And oh my God, we're da 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 da. No, the reality is our current budget has capital expenses along with normal operating expenses, and you shouldn't do that. And I'm going to tell you why. In your home, if you know, I used to be a credit counselor in what feels now like a prior life. In your home, you're going to have periodic expenses. At some point you got to save for your roof. At some point, you might have to save for tires and those kinds of things, and you plan your projects out. You don't tie up any money unnecessarily. You don't put every extra dollar into your roof account if you know you're not going to do the roof for 2 years, or maybe in the first year you're only going to do a portion of the roof until you get it done. So what Sunset Valley has done, because we've been kind of flush, is we have put projects in our budget that we think we're going to do in the year, and so we tie up money, and the budget looks very unbalanced in doing that. I took out 2 projects, or recommended 2 projects to be taken out. One of them was the Home Depot Boulevard project, and one of them was the Ernest Robles project. That one alone was $833,000. Now, in municipal accounting and good capital planning, we should have a schedule for those projects. And if I know in year 1, I'm really only going to get to do the engineering and let's say the geotechnical, and that's going to come out to $125, why in the world would I budget $833? It makes no sense. And then we carry it over. So what I want us to do is really think about what we're spending per year, and then let's put the other money to work somewhere. Cities are able to invest so long as FDIC insured. Let's figure out how we can put our money to work as opposed to tying it up in the operations budget. So the next part of this is budget and finance, public works, and planning and environmental are going to have to be joined at the hip with me this year. So they may not like me right now, and they're going to like me even less later on in the year, because I need some hard work done. I really need some hard work done. We're missing several factors in our land development code. We need to update our land use maps. We're looking at impact fees, and we have to really start looking at ourselves 5 years and 10 years down the road. So all of those are really critical to that. And then here's her explanation for the reduction of the hot expense. And this is the phrase Karen said, no single day events to be funded. What she essentially did in this parking lot is she has punted it to council so that council can decide out of the $400,000 that's in the hot fund or the $325 that's going to be available in the general fund, how does council want to fund that? Mm-hmm. So then we move on to, here's the elimination of offsite storage that Karen alluded to. So there was a decrease of $4,000 because that account comes out of the general fund. There was a decrease of $4,000. So Karen and I had a conversation. Staff did not tell me anything about, rodent feces or rodent urine that Karen told me about. So there is a plan to move staff into the Public Works building, which would create a more neighborhood or community building within City Hall, and also leave the potential to bring that stuff in here or some other more secure space than a storage building offsite. But the recommendation this year is, I don't have a plan for that move yet, so let's put that $4,000 back and let's get a real plan in place. So I'm going to move to staffing. There is a recommendation to hire a public works director. That has pretty much been the recommendation across the board from most of the committees. And so a public works director at a cost of $105,000. By the time I load the salary rate, is $132,600. So that's been included in the budget. There was also discussion about hiring maintenance techs or offloading that contract. So what we did is I went out to Texascapes because we are in contract negotiations, and I said, how much would all of this mowing cost? If I can free up staff from the mowing, staff has a lot of work to do in the water side. We have meters that we installed that you guys didn't buy the software for, that, you know, there's a lot of work to do in the essential part, and the essential is water, wastewater, and streets. So if I can get somebody to mow, great. So Texascapes came back with a bid of $60,000. 2 maintenance techs to do that same work would cost $96,000. The other thing that the mayor put in the budget was an increase to the solid waste. Not only did she take out the $10 per resident, she is proposing to give the residents even more services from TDS. And she wants to go to once a week recycling, and also do away with some of what I call the crazy stuff. So I don't know if you guys know that when we do bulk, that our contract with TDS has bulk incorporated in it. So the residents, you know, we put out on the calendar that we're going to pick up on so-and-so and so-and-so. We spend staff time, we spend the fuel, the trucks, all of that stuff. We bring it to the yard, and then we pay TDS to take it. Our contract with TDS says they will do bulk pickup twice a year at the resident's request. So you don't have to wait for us to do it. You call when you want to call. Now, there is a limit. You can't put out a whole household full of bulk out there. But, you know, we keep talking about community. Well, let's work with our neighbors. If your neighbor's not going to have a bulk pickup item, maybe you can use theirs. It's really just a matter of what's in the city's best interest in terms of overall cost. We do have to get control of the storage yard. We don't have, while we have key cards, we don't really have an accounting of those key cards. Who's coming in, who's going out, and how many people are actually dumping.
Sylvia, can I stop you for a sec?
Sure.
I see that Rob has a comment.
Sure.
Yeah, my whole comment is, this is awesome. And I think we got like the Arts Commission, the stuff that affects us in there. I know you're probably gonna have to give this presentation like 10 more times.
That's
and
okay.
I will be there for one of them, but we're covered on the Arts Commission stuff, correct?
Okay.
That was awesome. I really strangely enjoyed this run through.
You might want to just look at the parking lot.
Yep, so the parking lot item, these are, so I'll scroll down real quick. You guys can, you can beat me over the head that I'm 7 cents off in a multi-million-dollar, I'm 20 cents off and actually 15 cents off in a multi-million-dollar budget. I'll take my beatings for that any single day. But this is the parking lot. This is what can be funded out of a portion of that 325 if the council so chose.
Or the hot reserve, correct?
Yes, or the hot reserve, correct.
So basically for us, this would involve, if we're thinking Arts Commission only, we're looking at item 15, and then we're looking at item 18.3.
Correct.
And these are in no particular order, right?
No particular order.
Cool.
What is the retired number 2? What is retired resident program?
So we have some exercise classes, a matter of balance, and those kinds of things that are held here at City Hall, and we normally provide the printing and or coffee, donuts kind of thing.
Is that the kind of thing where they have the program to teach people how to fall and?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, okay, good. I'd like to take that.
Yeah, you need that.
I do.
And so there was some discussion about CED. I want the committee to know that CED received zero funding. They are having to also what I call compete. And it's not necessarily compete, but it is explain, it is map out, and it is show what's going to be in the best interest of the city and the community for what you're asking for.
So a question for you then, Sylvia. If we go back to the council and say, oh, well, we want, you know, all of 15 and we want all of the hot funds.
What I would encourage you to do, first of all, is we have an open town hall link open right here. It says, please submit your comments, concerns, or ideas. When you click this link, you're able to add a statement. You can add a statement and then also support somebody else's statement. So I would encourage everybody to use this because the council's been going to this site and reading those statements religiously.
Yeah, I think what I was asking you is how realistic is it to ask for those things, given
Well,
all.
I would say get with your council liaison and, you know, fight for it. That's, I do not believe that there's anybody that's on the council that is under the perception that nothing else is going to be funded. I think they're willing to hear it. I do tell you they're going to be conservative, and I tell you that if there's a good plan, I think it stands a good chance.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sylvia, also, just so everybody has all the information, there is opportunity as council reviews the budget throughout the year for budget amendments to also be done that would include additional items, correct?
Yes, absolutely. So that's another thing. There was this past Tuesday, we approved some financial policy amendments, and one of those is a monthly budget review. And one of those is what I keep calling elasticity or flexibility policy. We need to be able to constrict really quickly, which is why the TDS contract makes sense, or we can expand as needed. And we were doing quarterly review of the budget. Well, by that time, 3 sales tax periods had already gone by. So getting a tighter hold of it will, I think, let people breathe easier.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ruth.
Thanks, Sasha. Remind me, everybody, what was in the item 15 Arts Commission 8690?
That's all there, the purple one. The purple
Number
folder.
15.
It's up. It's on the side. No.
I think it's storage, and then it's also the once a year cultural event that we would have, because those things didn't come out of hot funds.
Yeah, it was the yeah, you're right. It was the storage, and it was the general fund events that we do, whether they be movie nights or World Art and Culture or concert series, but they were funded by the general fund. So that's what that was.
Yep. So I want everybody to go take a look. We have what we're calling a transparency portal. There's a report out there called the FY21 budget process. And I emailed that to the council. I'm happy to email it to this committee. And what it does is it has what staff's recommendation was, what the Budget and Finance Committee's recommendation was, and what the mayor's recommendation was for revenues, expenses, etc. You can dive as deep as you would like into that.
No, talking.
So in our submittal, we had bronze, silver, and gold. And the gold was 6,770 for the production of events throughout the year. Silver was 4,000 for events, and the bronze only had storage.
So does that mean the silver is in the parking lot, so to speak?
Yes, the bronze is in the parking lot.
No,
I
I believe
think
it's
the
actually,
total amount, I think the gold's in there. Is it 8,000?
Yeah.
it's actually gold
Gold.
market
Oh, on number 15. Okay. Sorry.
Yep.
for the general fund.
Yes. Yep.
That's what I was wondering, if that was our gold on that number 15. Okay, great, I got it.
All 3 of them, bronze, silver, and gold, all have the 1920 for storage. Then they have gold and silver have 2 productions, either 4 or 67,000.
So,
Rob?
Sasha, we're in 6, right? Action or bullet
Yeah.
point 6.
Yes, agenda item 6, correct.
Yeah. So action sought commission decision about advocating for 2021 Arts Fest. I mean, I don't. That seems like it's its own meeting, but not to start
Well,
like a. Go ahead.
I hope I didn't tighten that action sought too much, but it was the thing that kind of was salient in my mind. And there may be other things that we would want to do instead with those hot funds.
Yeah, I think what Terry said really resonated with me. Like, we're currently not funded. I don't see, like, even if we get like a monthly pull in from the parking lot, we're already behind on planning 2021. But I'm not sure how to wrap that into a. I'm just under the impression, like, I personally, even if everyone else was like, hey, let's go do it, I don't think we're gonna have one. And even if something miraculous happens, we just don't even have enough time to plan for it, because like we don't currently have any money. So at the point where we can just like put that in motion to just say like, we have some other things that never get attention because we're always doing Arts Fest like 12 months of the year. So like maybe this is the time that we put some love into some of the other projects.
Yeah.
So who wants to help me put together a motion for that?
Well, could I just add to that a little bit? Having
Sure.
worked on 13 of them now, you're right. We are, by now, I think Michelle would have already been contacting some of the artists and getting ready to put up what does she call it?
Call to artists.
Call to artists and that sort of thing. And also, there's the big issue of people keep talking about the flu season, and added to the COVID, what is that going to mean for the winter going into spring? So there's a huge big if right there. So I'm inclined to agree and just do it right.
22.
In 22, yeah.
Okay.
This is Matt. Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Sure.
Staff. Yeah. So, and then it's the next item on the agenda too, is as Sasha worded it, kind of new world ideas. Maybe Art Fest, the one-day event won't happen, or it's looking like it won't happen next year. And yeah, we don't know where the pandemic is going to be, but there are other ways to explore. I know at 2 meetings ago when we were talking about Art Fest and planning, it was talked about like the equity that we've built with the artists and the vendors over the years. And so maybe there's a way to explore in the spring, instead of having, an actual festival, some way to like have a virtual, some way to virtually promote the artists that normally vend at Art Fest. So there's other way, there's a theater company that I'm really fond of, the Vortex. I don't know if y'all have been there, Vortex
Yeah.
Butterfly Bar, and they've been doing a lot of, virtual events because that's all they can do right now. So there are other ways to explore, connecting people with art and people with artists in this time of COVID. So maybe that's something that the Arts Commission could explore next year in a much cheaper way if we do it all online. So that's just a suggestion.
Yeah. Okay. What are any other sentiments about this, or do we want to have a motion for it at this point? That would be yay, nay.
Now, what was Rob's proposal to do something maybe in the meantime, something at a smaller scale?
My view on it was just like, let's, number one, just say that we're not gonna go after a 2021.
Right.
Like, so just,
Yeah, we want to forget 2020 anyway.
yeah. But I mean, we're talking about, yeah. So, so maybe we first needed a motion to just say we're just like wiping out 2021.
But maybe we could plan something for the fall of 2021. That at least we'll be able to have a better assessment of what the situation is by then.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be an art fest, but it could be something at a smaller scale.
So Sasha, what do we, can you help me word motion for 6 here?
I can, but I know someone else can too. I just went blank for like the last 20 minutes. But I think the first part of it is probably that we make a motion not to request funds for the Art Fest for this upcoming budget.
Right.
And then there's probably some second part to that. Terry, do you know what the second part is?
Check.
If there is one.
Come on,
Basically,
somebody's got a
what's
second.
I'm not-
the parking lot are we looking toward? If we're not doing Art Fest, what piece of that 8,000 some would we be looking for?
So just to be
Well-
clear, the Art Fest is hot fund money.
Right.
So if there's a motion to postpone Art Fest until 2022, or till post-COVID or whatever, then that's the hot fund. And the question is, are you wanting to request any other hot fund money? The $8,000 is general fund. Like, two different things.
Right.
I think we only have one hot fund related thing, right? So I'm like,
Right.
yeah, we're just pulling ourselves out of there and just gaining some goodwill, hopefully.
Other thoughts?
So is the basic motion to not pursue a 2021 Art Fest and relinquish that foot that we had in the door on those hot funds?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's word that. Or who wants to make it? Ruth, go
There,
for
I
it.
just did.
Well, I think what we're really saying is we're just not requesting any hot funds for 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That way,
so
it's
I've been writing down motion, this is Matt, motion not to pursue Art Fest 2021 and relinquish the requested hot funds for fiscal year 2021.
I'll second that.
I can't make a motion, but Rob, do you want to make that motion?
Oh, I
Since
thought
you
Ruth-
started-
No, he can't.
So Rob, will you make that motion?
I will, can you,
Yeah. Motion not to pursue Art Fest 2021 and relinquish the requested hot funds for fiscal year 2021.
I am not dyslexic, but if I were, it would be, I am unable to like take something that someone tells me and immediately repeat it back. If anyone else could do that, please, because I just,
Matt, can you put it on the screen?
yeah, if you put it on the screen, I will read it.
Let me send it in the chat. I don't think I'm an organizer, Sylvia.
Okay.
Here, I'm typing it to, oh, I can't send a chat to anybody.
Here, let me make you an organizer right quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna put it in the chat.
My motor planning is like off a little
There we
bit. When
go.
you start telling me what to say, I start thinking about saying it instead of listening.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll give it a try.
That's the question.
They have to say
There
it
we go.
again to me
There's
first.
the motion. It's on the chat box.
Okay,
Let's
I'm
look.
making a motion not to pursue Art Fest 2021 and relinquish the requested hot funds for fiscal year 2021.
I second that.
All
I'll
right.
second.
Motion by Rob, seconded by James.
Okay,
Discussion.
Discussion.
What?
discussion.
Just had
Discussion.
one thought. Is there anything in that number 15 parking lot that could be could be funded by hot funds? I mean, do we really want to totally let go of all of that?
No, that's just general, number 15.
I understand. Is there anything in the number 15 that could be supported with HAP funds? We're just putting it in general because of the priority of Art Fest.
Is the
Right.
stuff we keep in storage only related to Art Fest?
No, it's related to all the events that the Art Commission does. It has all the street signs, lighting for concerts,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera.
I think it has to be tourism related. So like, and
Yes.
we're explicitly not trying to bring people in.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know if they would accept, say, a partial, like say, $10,000, you know, of hot funds for a project, for a tourism project TBD sometime during that, which we
Yeah, I
would
like the way you
then have
think.
time to plan something for maybe the summer or any time before the September 30th. And if we don't come up with something, then we just relinquish the hot funds, just goes back into the pot.
Yeah.
Instead of
That
just losing.
I wouldn't be so concerned about the pot or who's going to get it because the money's not allocated to anybody else. If it's not used, it falls to fund balance.
That's what I'm
What-
saying.
Yeah, but fund balance, as Karen stated earlier, when you come back to council, you have the opportunity, if Karen can get a second sponsor, you have the opportunity to put that item before council and assume it's been flushed out and it's fully baked and it goes to council to have council consideration to fund it.
Yep.
My thing is, if we're not sure about using the money, then let's not budget it and let's put our money to work somewhere else. And I'm not talking about in another event. I'm talking about in an interest earning or somewhere where it can make a little bit of money for us while we're contemplating what we're going to do.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And as I said earlier, if the Arts Commission comes up with a plan and puts together what you would need to execute the plan that would fall into the hot funds, at that point, then I could get another sponsor from council to support that, and it could be a budget amendment. But council would then know exactly what you're looking at getting funded, because we are supposed to have all of our requests and things that we put on the agenda fully baked, if you will.
Hey, Sylvia, are we saying that, I missed just like 10 seconds of that, but before you spoke about something like, you know, revisiting with the mayor and city council every month or so to like potentially add stuff in, we're just like the motion is just around the Art Fest hot fund request, but we can ask for something later. Like if together we get together a good idea and say like,
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
That's what I was just saying, Rob. If you come up with something, a plan, and it has some numbers to it, you know what you need and what it is, I can sell that, and I'd be willing to take that to council. But just to say, well, we're not going to do Art Fest, but we want $20,000 and we don't know what we're going to do with it.
Yeah.
Even if we have like, and I feel like even if we had like a virtual Art Fest, I mean, like Art Fest was always about like bringing in local artists and outside artists. And I mean, Sylvia would have to, she's more into like the governance world, but like, is there such thing as virtual tourists? I mean, like, I don't know if there are, like, if people just come to a website to like browse stuff from artists and performances virtually, I mean, does it promote Sunset Valley in any way? Like, can you sell that like concept? But
Good question. I've seen virtual tours of museums and virtual concerts, but I don't know that it's really going to fulfill the tourism piece because we're wanting people to actually physically come here, which, you know, in the time of COVID is questionable. So, and that's why I think council is looking at the budget, wanting to look at the budget every month, because this is uncharted territory. We don't know what it's going to look like moving forward. And so we want to keep our finger on the pulse of that and make adjustments. And as Sylvia said earlier, that elasticity to be able to say, okay, things are better now. We have a plan. Arts Commission's come to us with something that makes sense and we want to support that. That could then be approved as a budget amendment.
My
Okay.
only fear is that CED would say, oh, the Arts Commission is not going to use any hot funds. Let's just throw that into our marketing. And that's not what I would like to see happen. I would like to see that theirs is a finite number and that's it.
Well, I would like to see more collaboration, and I don't think you have to fear that CED is going to take something that would belong to Arts Commission, because the sentiment of the council truly, and it truly is one that I'm pushing, and I'm a very fiscally conservative person. I really, unless we really know what we're going to do, let's not even put it on there. In your household budget, you wouldn't trim down your grocery budget because you think you might want something later on. You know, let's be realistic, and if we have a great idea, great, let's flush it out and then present it. The other issue too that, you know, has been on my mind is we have to shift this paradigm where the committees are sort of doing their own thing, and sometimes it's in conflict with another committee, or sometimes the committees are doing the same thing, and the council doesn't really know what's going on or who did what. And an example is the CED program they were trying to get funded, and you know, it comes to council and it's like, what? The council's got to make a motion that says no new stuff, no new stuff. I really want us to really begin to, as the council does their retreat in November and they come up with policies and goals, that we as a community, all of the committees are working toward that. So we're not pushing and pulling against one another. The easiest way to go nowhere is to do that.
Well said, Sylvia. I think that's a really good point. And I think that we have an opportunity with the marketing firm. Once they get up and running, they're going to be reaching out to stakeholders in the community to identify, you know, what is our unique selling point as Sunset Valley and how do we market ourselves. And I think Arts Commission would do well to stay up with what's happening with that and really, you know, be part of that along with CED and get under that umbrella of let's all be promoting Sunset Valley the way that will get us the best recognition and make our community stand out.
Okay, so we had a motion on the floor. Is there any more discussion pertaining to that motion? Because we had a first and a second, and if there's no more discussion, we could vote on it. No more discussion. Matt, can you read us the motion again just so it is clear before we vote?
Sure. So the motion was not to pursue ArtFest 2021 and to relinquish the requested hot funds for fiscal year 2021. And do you want me to call the roll?
That would be great.
Could I put a friendly,
Yes.
whatever it's called,
Amendment.
after our discussion about perhaps us coming up with something that we can then sell to the council after we've completely fleshed it out and everything, instead of saying relinquish, could we say until further projects to be designed, worked out, whatever.
I think that's a whole nother thing. I think just keep it clean with the motions.
Okay.
And you could always make another motion to pursue XYZ.
Yeah, we don't have Roxy here, but like, is it apparent from that motion that like the relinquishing of hot funds is related to ArtFest 2021?
Yes, it says FY 2021 right there.
Oh,
And
I know, but like, if you read ArtFest in first part, can it be inferred in the second part that it's just like the funds that we were relinquishing are ArtFest 2021? It's kind of confusing because next year is 2021 and fiscal year 2021. So like, is it? Go ahead.
Rob, we could add relinquish the requested hot funds for ArtFest in fiscal year 2021.
Okay. Do I have to create a new motion for that?
Or you could just add the word associated funds. Relinquish the associated requested hot funds.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good.
Okay.
Great.
Do I have to re-motion?
Yes.
Okay, motion not to pursue ArtFest 2021 and relinquish the requested.
The associated.
Associated.
One second, let me try one more time. Motion not to pursue ArtFest 2021 and relinquish the associated requested hot fund for fiscal year 2021.
Yes.
Second.
All right, let's go for a vote. Matt, you want to do it by roll?
Okay, sure. I'm just going to go down the list here. Okay, James?
Yes. Aye.
Miles, are you on? Did you hear the motion?
Miles is on, but he's
I
not.
didn't know if he heard the motion or not.
Miles, are you
Do you
there?
want to abstain?
He's muted.
You're self-muted, Miles.
We can circle back.
Here we go. I heard the motion, thank you, and I'm going to abstain because
Okay.
I missed some of the discussion. I didn't hear it all.
Okay. And Rob?
Aye.
And Ruth?
Aye.
Dasha?
Yep.
Terry?
Aye.
Troy?
Aye.
And John?
Aye.
And Joe?
Oh, and Joe. Sorry. Your name's Joe. Sorry, Joe.
All right. Aye.
Joe, John, and James.
Good. Couldn't see you for the hair.
Okay. Motion passes.
Beautiful. And we're pretty close to on time. I was going to suggest, I think that is there a problem for you protocol experts with just switching the order of 7 and 8?
That is your prerogative, Chair.
Okay, the chair is going to plan for us to switch 7 and 8 so that we can have this discussion and also be respectful of our guests.
Hello, girl.
Okay, so the way that I had imagined that we would pursue this section would be to hear from Terry and Miles, sort of a synopsis of what they're suggesting, have some discussion about it, and then have a vote about it. So Terry or Miles, who would like to initiate this discussion?
I'm happy to start with it.
Thank you,
Okay.
Miles.
All right.
I'm not sure how the idea came about. I think Terry came to me, and we saw an opportunity to get involved with the farmers market to better that tradition, and at the same time to create an avenue for expression and contribution for the Arts Commission with that farmers market. So we looked at a number of things, and there are 2 documents that were provided. The first one, which the bullet points, speaks of the things that we can do in terms of being the point of contact, the overseer, to make sure whether it's FFC or another vendor that they're serving their interests and our interests, and there's some growth. And at the same time, do an enhancement that on the face of it is like creating a mini art fest, which now is perhaps even more attractive concept in as much as we are not pursuing funding for 2021. So I don't know, has everyone gotten a chance to read that first document?
Ruth and Joe, yeah.
If not, I'm happy to go through it too.
Well, let's see if people have read it first, Miles.
Has anyone not?
That's a good question.
I have not. I'm ashamed to say that. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I'll just give a brief review or a refresher for all those people who have read it. There are two documents. The first one sort of bullet points of how we can get involved and type of enhancements. And the second one is sort of a historic look at Farmers Market alongside the Arts Commission and Art Fest and how they really can be aligned in serving the community. So that's sort of a backgrounder. So so first, and maybe that's something that Terry can address after my presentation here. So let's envision that the farmers market already has elements of art with its live music, and the Art Fest already had, it's a sort of a tri-part approach to art, live music, and children's entertainment. And both of these have something very much in common. They're bringing the community together, people from Sunset Valley and people from outside of our city. And also, although it hasn't been measured, it does seem as sensible that it helps the image of the city and the branding, and something we'll find out more with the marketing campaign. So we're an artsy, if we envision ourselves an artsy place, then why shouldn't our farmers market be a little bit more artsy than it currently is? And the way to do that would be to enhance it with local artists made art, sculpture, and jewelry being presented either as vendors selling or another type of presentation on a regular basis. And that means just extending the vendor tables. The second thing is, whereas it already has live music built into their program, and SFC or wherever else is handling it can provide a musician every week on its own, we can make it a little bit more musical and on special occasions, which could perhaps be seasonal. It's only a few times a year. It's not a lot of music programming. Maybe it's just 4 times a year, we're adding some other extra musicians with or without a stage. I hasten to remind everyone that having the stage for Art Fest was a big line item for the budget expense. It was like $12,000 or another $3,000 for the producer. So just having, if we can present live music without having the physical accoutrements and expense, then that's something that can make the Saturday market be even more exciting, draw more people, and satisfy more people, including members of our own community, and enhance our image as an artsy place. And finally, because it's been so successful with Art Fest, why not bring in some of our experience and vision for children's engagement? They already do it now with children's yoga and maybe some face painting and things like that. But there's no reason why you couldn't get Home Depot to come and do something for something like this. It may not be as grand as what they do for Art Fest, or what our Public Works Department has done in the past, or something new. We put all our heads together and consult with people involved with children's engagement. People who want to shop would like to bring their children, and how great it is to have something that appeals to the kids as well. And as I put in my the document that Terry and I had together here, these are all hallmarks of Art Fest: locally made art, live music, and children's activity. Now, what's involved in doing all this? We have to go to the council, or maybe even first go to the community and garner some support for this, and then go to the council. And the mechanics of it is that someone has to oversee the farmers market program and act as a liaison with it. And it's been running afloat, it's been running by its own without any type of management or oversight for quite a while. It's too much to expect Sylvia or anyone else in administration to get involved in all the things I'm about to speak about. So it ought to be someone or a committee, and why not the Arts Committee, to do these things. And as liaison, you're going to enforce the contract. You just make sure the contractual agreement requirements are being met, and to see that we're getting the best market for our money in our community, and in a way that's also good for the vendor, because by building up the appeal and the breadth of our Saturday farmers market, why wouldn't it be good for the organization running the farmers market? The second thing is we're going to bring our knowledge and ability to Art Fest to enhance the program, in the ways I already spoke about, the weekly arts vendors, the seasonal musical programs, and occasional children's engagement. Now, that children's engagement could be a theatrical production or something in the one-offs. Now, bear in mind, I'm not talking about 52 weeks of programming. I'm talking about letting the farmers market do what it normally does with a musician on the stage and face painting or the kids yoga, and occasionally come in and enhance it on a particular weekend. We'd be, and that leads to number 3. We're going to be adding to our city brand in advertising and promotion there. We'll be using social media to now, instead of just the last month before our April Arts Fest, throughout the year, we'll be reaching out to our 1,000+ list of friends, and which we hope to grow and to get other types of publicity opportunities, and to let them know that there's going to be a seasonal event that the public can attend. And then there are other things that should have been done all along, I think, that through our direction, we can then make them happen. You go to the Sunset Valley Farmers Market, and you're not really seeing Sunset Valley, you're seeing SFC being promoted everywhere. And I don't know how it is with the other vendors, whether it's the one in Mueller or Lakeline or the other places, but inasmuch as this is a cooperative venture between us and SFC, it should be Sunset Valley Presents on the stage, or Sunset Valley welcomes you at the entrance. We shouldn't be left out of it. And the same thing with our advertising. It's always been about SFC, and Sunset Valley is like an afterthought in its way it's mentioned. This, of course, will the idea of this will evolve over time as our marketing and brand identity program gets underway, to see how does it look like, and maybe does this advertising go under their umbrella instead of spending the nearly $30,000 that we spend now on farmers market advertising and marketing. Maybe that somehow is built in or an adjunct to the what we're having the marketing firm use doing already. And finally, let's not leave out our always mindful mission of growing and maintaining and enlivening our stores. So with CED, if they may be a good partner to help us facilitate the stores at our market. Now, I know that something has been done in the past with some of these things, but I don't know what that history is. And that's something we can discuss today. So whoever is present in this Arts Commission meeting, after we're done with this presentation, I hope that will be part of what you can educate us about and see whether we're on the right track. And finally, this is sort of a mini festival approach. And if there was ever to be a larger art fest once a year, these mini events, or even every weekly event, can always refer to Art Fest. So Sunset Valley Art Fest is always a term that you see there. Maybe it's Sunset Valley Art Fest presents the musician on the stage every week, or Sunset Valley Art Fest presents the Easter extravaganza, or the July Independence Weekend July extravaganza. These are just some ideas that are I'm putting forth, and I'm looking forward to all of your input on the feasibility and the desirability. Now, the feasibility, you look at a few ways. One, is this something that can our commission do? We have to really take inventory of who we are and what's required to do this. If it's going to be 4 events a year and there's minor events, it sounds like something that's manageable. We do have prior experience from doing much larger, much demanding events once a year. Where I think we have to break new ground is with the promotion, advertising, and social media. We have to go beyond what we've done in the past with ArtFest, and then it can be done because we now have people in the commission with the knowledge and the vision and the creativity to do that. So that's basically what Terry and I had in mind. And now I'm going to ask Terry if he would like to address anything that I've said, or to go to that second document about why this is a natural marriage between the two.
Yeah, well, thanks, Miles. That was a great overview. And I primarily want to be available to answer questions with Miles about this. Miles, first and foremost, the farmers market is there for organic food to table. And so what we're interested in doing is leveraging that in with other activities in the city and integrating the farmers market into an essential part of Sunset Valley. Now, I know that people who visit the farmers market, and there's a lot of us, we feel that way, but there has been criticism in regard to the market where people aren't visioning it or understanding it that way. It's an excellent resource. We've had it many years. We started a long time ago when I was mayor, is when we created the farmers market. It's a natural fit for the commission that's responsible for the cultural events of the city. And by the way, culinary arts is also an art form, so it fits that way as well. It provides the Art Commission with a mission that's relevant to the city now with the temporary demise of Art Fest, and it stabilizes farmers market as an essential part of our Sunset Valley culture. The complaints that have arisen can be easily handled with the structure that we're talking about, where we take on kind of a contract manager role. The SFC or whoever the vendor is in the future would run the farm to table part of it, and because that is not our area of expertise, and we wouldn't really want to interfere with that except to make sure that the contract's being followed. But the activities that Miles has talked about will attract more people to the market. There's no doubt about that. It has in the past when we put more energy into it. And FSC is a fine organization. I'm hoping we can work through these glitches. Part of the next step would be to meet, if the commission wanted to take the next step to further investigate whether to take this on or not, is to actually talk with the FSC about it, any questions you had, etc. But I think it would be a real gift from the Art Commission to the community for us to get involved in the farmers market, ensuring its future and enhancing it in a way that increases the cultural experience for people in our community and the surrounding area. And we have a plan to tie this in with the larger commerce part of Sunset Valley. So I think at this point, please ask any questions you have.
So Terry, this is Troy.
Yes.
I have a couple of questions, and some is just for my education. So how are vendor opportunities at the farmers market marketed now? Who pursues getting new vendors engaged?
Currently, it's FSC, the vendor who runs the Sunset Valley Farmers Market for us, for the city of Sunset Valley.
I know that there are occasional artists, craftsmen in booths. I don't know if it's always there, but are they recruited by SFC then?
I don't know. There's a couple of reps of FSC on a phone call. I'm not sure where they get them, but I'm thinking that we would make that part of what we could contribute to so they could focus more on the farm to market part of it, farm to a table part of it.
I think
because
Karen,
we already have a process set up to screen vendors, to sign them up. We know how to do this when it comes to artists.
Yeah.
Yes, Karen has got some response to that because we have history in that regard.
Karen?
Yeah, just a FYI, some history here. When we first when the change happened from the previous vendor for the market to Sustainable Food Center, the Arts Commission did work with the Sustainable Food Center to change their bylaws to allow art vendors. And we worked with them. They have an application, and they do have art vendors, and the Arts Commission actually had a committee in the beginning that helped them screen those artists. And so they do have artists that come. Some of the issues though are a lot of vendors art vendors want to be there just when there's like a holiday to buy gifts and things like that. So those kinds of promotions. So the every week thing kind of didn't pan out, but they do have, as far as I know, and Joy, correct me, but you still have those application forms and the process for bringing any art vendor in.
Well, I'm sure they have forms. We have forms. The thing that, because of my history with this, the farmers market belongs to the city. FSC is the vendor that we've hired to run it for us, for the community. It belongs to the community. So in that spirit, there's a lot of flexibility how we can approach this.
So Terry, so I was trying to get sort of an understanding of how it's managed now, but my real question is about sort of the projected future of trying to integrate a mini Arts Fest into this. Is in the background you've got a statement around arts, music, and anything else should support a primary purpose and goal: good, fresh, farmed, local food. And I see something around culinary arts supporting that, like a cooking demo, but I don't see a silversmith supporting that unless they're smithing items that promote vegetables. And so I'm trying to understand sort of the emphasis of supporting, the goals of a farmer's market, which I mean, many times I find that there are more vendors not selling fresh food at the SSC farmers market than fresh food. And I'd like to see more fresh food vendors, more farmers with their produce. But I'm thinking, maybe we should be aiming more at culinary arts with demonstrations versus artists.
Those are excellent points. In order to have more food vendors there, we need to have more people come there. In order to get more people to there, we're going to have to do some things that aren't being done there. In regard to every week, I agree with Karen, but as Miles laid it out, we're really not talking about every week. And he's talking, the part of the plan is like 4 times a year for special, and those could coincide at or around holidays that are 4 times a year to bring more people in. We have a mailing list with Arts Fest that we could utilize to try to build up attendance at the farmers market. These two things, and vice versa, when Art Fest comes back. We need to start keeping track of who's visiting the market and building a client list and Facebook lists, etc. I don't see a contradiction in it not being pure one way or the other. I think that it's a situation where one activity which we're charged to do is to speak to the cultural life of the city of Sunset Valley, can reach out and shake hands with another activity, which is bring organic food into the city for our families and the people around us, and work together. I don't think we need to keep silos at this point, particularly what we're having to deal with.
Terry, can I get clarification on what you said about the city owning that, or it's the city's, because SFC is a vendor to us. Can you tell me what you meant by that or clarify that for me?
Yeah, it's not like the carnival where we hire an organic food vendor to come in and do their thing. This is our thing. farmer's market is our thing, and we find the very best vendor to do it for us. And the vendor we found that has been very good for us is FSC.
Oh, okay, okay,
Again,
I gotcha. Yes, we
okay.
do put out an RFP for services. Gotcha. And our current vendor is SFC. Okay.
Yes.
Ruth,
Can I get a point of information? So the money that we have paid to SFC, which is 10,000 or so, I didn't catch the exact figure, that is hot funds money, is it not?
Correct.
It's
Okay.
$41,000 a year, of which we pay all of their marketing. We pay $200 a week for a musician. We pay for all sorts of miscellaneous things like napkins, trays, microwave oven, anything to facilitate sampling.
Mhm. So what I'm wondering is if we do some of these really cool ideas, we would need some extra hot funds, like to make a banner that says Sunset Valley brings to you or anything like that. That's going to need additional money. So I'm just envisioning how someone that would come in from the outside, whether a citizen or just a council member, and say, what is up with the Arts Commission? It appears to me that nixing the grand poobah of the event for next year, the Art Fest, and instead morphing it into quarterly little Art Fest boosts of the farmers market is what we're intending to do. So rather than entirely relinquishing all of the hot funds that we had asked for Art Fest, we'd want a piece of it in order to dabble in this enhanced farmers market a la Art Fest situation quarterly or 4 times a year.
Yeah, I agree with you. If the commission decides to do this, then we would go back in for hot funds to help support it.
Okay. That's kind of what I was thinking when I first brought up that whether we want to relinquish the whole hot funds thing out. Would you hold that? It's really hot on my leg. Thank you.
Let me mention that historically, we've paid about $30,000 in advertising. It would be Edible Austin Magazine online and print edition. It would be the Austin Chronicle. It would be Facebook and some other internet opportunities. So that money's already been there for that. The good thing about the banners and the signs is they're sort of one-offs. I mean, you spend $1,000 on a big welcome banner that people walk under. Well, you now have the banner. And if there's one sign about Sunset Valley Art Fest presents for the stage, well, that's, if that's another up to 1,000, I'm just giving a rough figure. It really shouldn't be more than that. You now own that. And if I could just amplify something about Terry's his answer about how we own the market, and in regard to Sylvia's question, that's our city, and it's our vision, and it's initially our people who are going there, and it's our invitation to people to come visit us. So the ownership just means that instead of having the carnival come in and do it the way that they want to, which is what SFC has been done without our oversight, it doesn't have to be that way, and it doesn't necessarily have to hurt them if we are also showing more interest and growing it in such a way that brings extra people there. But we don't have to worry about seeking out the vendors and running that part of the show. That's something that they do, and something that they're hired to do. But this extensions is where we bring in our experience to modify and enhance it.
okay, Rob.
I have a comment, actually, or sorry.
Okay, Matt, let me come to you after.
Yeah,
Matt,
I
you're
just
always
wanted to
quick.
ask a question.
Sylvia, go ahead.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, we're essentially trying to have 4 little art fest right next door to the the SFC, and sort of incorporate those 2 things, correct?
I don't see them being so separate. People go there for the music and for the entertainment to bring their children. We can sell it as a mini art fest, but Sunset Valley is going to be present 52 weeks a year, with way that's not now. And that's good because people should know we're the type of people who value farm to table, and we like our environment and our trails. And here's the other thing, when we were talking about the silversmith and what does he have in common with the culinary arts or with the food. When you go to a farmer's market, there's so many things that are different about the shopping experience. First of all, you're outdoors, and that can be glorious, or it could be very hot. But you also are dealing with people who are not big box stores and not chains. You know, they're outside of the normal shopping experience that dominates our lives. And there's something about that that's sort of countrified, back to the roots, which semantically relates to nature, and so that having a guy who does the silversmith have a booth there, just because he's the one who makes the art, even though it has nothing to do with tomatoes or kale, he has something to do with them anyway, because those are the farmers are like him. They have this special contribution to our society, and then we're providing a place of commerce for both of them.
Okay.
So is the assumption that the Arts Commission folks are going to be doing the contract management stuff, all of what they do right now, or that White Hat used to help them to do, or whatever the marketing or whatever the production firm's name was? So is the assumption that Arts Commission is going to take that on, and hopefully not Ergo staff?
Well, let me just say that that is, I think, a fairly poignant question, Sylvia. About
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, and so I think that there is no assumption from the whole commission about that at this point. This is a discussion, and we would have to make a decision about that.
Okay.
But I think the first step might be to see if the commission as a whole wants to pursue this idea or not. So before we decide about contract management and all that. So I see two hands. I've seen Rob's for a while.
Yeah.
Rob?
Matt still wanted to say something.
Yeah, this is Matt. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, I just wanted to say, and I'm really glad this discussion's happening. I'm also really glad that the SFC folks are here. Big shout out to them. What I would like to say is that, you know, as we're, you know, Arts Commission has been dealing with the pandemic and trying to think about Art Fest next year. I'm actually doing my master's thesis. I'm in grad school on farmers markets during a pandemic. So I'm going to be doing a lot of work on this the next year. And farmers markets have, you know, like everyone have really struggled, and they've really had to change their game. They've had to change their game plan. I haven't been to SFC. I live north now, so I go to Lakeline. Sorry guys, sorry everybody. You know, farmers markets aren't the kind of hangout spots that they used to be. Now, you know, it's you go, you get your produce and you leave, because, you know, we're not supposed to be social gatherings. So what I would encourage you to do is, if you want to flesh this idea out more, make sure that you're talking with SFC and working with them, so that, you know, because right now that's probably not even feasible for them, because the way markets are structured is totally different during the pandemic than how they normally are. And so I just wanted to throw that piece out there.
Matt, sorry, Robert.
Rob, yeah, sorry. Matt, it sounds like a good practicum part of your thesis would be to work on the contracts that we need to do all this stuff, right? No?
Yeah.
Hey, Matt.
I really love this. I actually have read this before. I just wasn't sure like that's what this was. In the interest of time, I think we should see if Ben and Joy have anything to say. They've been really patient. If they have any concerns or any input, and then we probably need to vote on it.
Yeah,
I agree. So Ben and Joy, are you still there?
Yeah, we're still here. I'll start off, Ben, and then maybe you can add some more details. So I think, you know, we would love to work more closely with residents and, you know, the Arts Commission on ways that we can make the market stronger. And I think, you know, immediately, right? I think Matt, it was you who said that. I appreciate that, you know, things are a little bit weird right now with COVID, because yeah, we are, you know, operating similar to grocery stores, and kind of like you come in, you get your goods, you leave, because we're not trying to gather people. And so I just want to be mindful that I think we could start having those conversations. But I don't know that, kind of pending the pandemic, that we would want to kind of have, a larger Christmas fest, just given the pandemic. So I just wanted to say that. And then I think, with, some of the things one of the things I'm going to be sending to Sylvia is some of our customer survey data by the end of this week. And what's interesting is, and Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say that something like 80% or more of the people that say they come to the market come for their groceries, for their fruits and vegetables and that sorts of thing. And one of the things that farmers markets always have to kind of play the dance with is making sure that you don't have too many vendors selling one thing, or that are people getting kind of confused as in terms of kind of what the market is. And I think the way that the market has been communicated and branded now is a little bit more food focused. And so something to just be mindful of, if there's more art added to it, even if it's several times a year, is that going to change? Is it going to have the intended outcome I think we want it to? And I'm not saying that we can't do that. I think absolutely. It just, having been in this game for over a decade, it's always this ebb and flow, and different markets tend to have kind of different vibes, or you have different kind of vendors. And I do want to let Ben speak a little bit, because he's the one on the ground. He's the one who reviews the vendor applications, and he has worked with Sunset Valley residents who have been artisans who've sold at the market. So Ben, do you want to add some stuff?
Yeah, sure thing. To highlight what Joy said, nothing about artisans having a limited presence at market is due to anything we've done right now. Like Joy said, everybody's coming out for food. 100% of our customers surveyed indicated either produce or animal product as their top priority when coming to market. And that reflects a lot of what other priorities in the customer surveys reflected. And over time, we've just seen our artisans say, hey, maybe like 5-7 years ago, I could show up here and make several $100s off my arts and crafts. But nowadays, we're seeing that dwindle, especially as the demographics that we draw really heavily from 78749, 78745 have changed, and the housing market has come to reflect more of like small families starting families. We've seen a lot of that shift in market demand towards fruits and veggies. So not to say not welcome, as much as folks have kind of self-selected out as those artisan sales have gone in a different direction. So success can be there. I think the thing that I've seen from running this is making sure that there's something there to support that continued artisan presence, to offset the cost that artisans might be experiencing if they're going to be there off holiday hours and so on. But I would really welcome that. We did a bunch of work at the beginning of my time here with trying different activations and event providers and so on. And I'd be really happy to share as we move through points 1 through 4, if the commission decides to go in this direction, what we've seen with that and what success and what like improvement looks like as we ran those first trials.
Good input, Ben. And a last comment from Terry, just because we're time constrained at this point.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to, in order for us to have the discussions that FSC is interested in and that we're interested in, or those of us who are proposing this, and to take the next steps with this to see if we want to, there's several steps involved. The next step would be meeting with FSC and talking through some of these issues, and then it would have to go to council, and council would have to approve it. But in order to take the next step, I'd like to make a motion that the Arts Commission take the next step on this concept that we've proposed. That's my motion.
Okay. And Ruth?
I have a point of information. So are we safe to assume that Terry and Miles are raising their hand to be those representatives to liaison with the SFC and the overall farmers market situation?
Good question.
I'll speak to myself. Like the next step is to meet with farmers. I definitely would want to be part of that FSC meeting, but I think anybody on the commission who's interested could be there. And
So-
now on the contract management side, Miles and I have talked about how that it's options of scenarios, how to do that. So we are knowing that we have to put some energy into this.
So we can't go talk to you guys can make the motion, but then it has to go to council. We can't go talk to SFC just because you passed this motion tonight. They have a current contract
Oh.
they're under. So
No.
the motion, whatever goes through, would have to go to council for support.
Yeah, that's what I said, Sylvia, that
Oh,
we
okay.
can take the next step so that for the commissioners to approve, visiting with FSC. Nothing will happen until this goes to council and they approve or disapprove in terms of the real change, if there is one.
Gotcha.
It's Miles. If I could just answer Sasha's question. I don't think anyone should be scared about the idea of contract management. It really isn't much. It just means paying attention to what the agreement is and to make sure that everything's followed through. And so that's something I certainly could do. But the question we have to then ask is, how do we feel about manning, providing the manpower for these mini events and following throughout the year? Do we have enough, people on staff and time and willingness to do it? But I just want to clarify, don't be scared away by the idea of contract management. Once the
Are you
contract.
talking to me or to Sylvia?
I'm talking to everyone because maybe whoever asked whether Terry and Miles would be involved.
think it
Yes, to answer your question, I can handle contract management, as could anyone else, because don't be scared about it. It's not that much. It's just making sure that things are being followed the way they're supposed to, which they generally have, but there hasn't been, there's a great opportunity for input that hasn't been taken advantage of.
Terry, did you have a motion there?
Yeah, there's a motion. I need a second.
Matt, do you have what the motion is?
Yes, it is. Sorry. Motion to take the next steps on the farmer's market proposal.
Can you spell out what that is, Matt? I think that should be in the motion.
That's what Terry said. So, is it the farmer's market proposal as presented for this meeting? Or I don't know.
Yeah, it's documented that you can use Miles, what he wrote up as the background for it.
Okay, do we want to say anything more?
What it would do, it would allow us to start talking as a commission, to start talking with the vendor, FSC, to see if it's feasible to go beyond that discussion.
I think, doesn't the council have
So should the motion, I'm sorry. So should the motion include motion to present to council to seek permission to discuss with SFC or vet with SFC?
Oh, no, we don't have to have council permission to talk to FSC.
No, you do, Terry. You do, Terry. That was my point. The same thing held for CED when they were, trying to reach out to the business folks. It's needing to make sure the message is clear and consistent. And SFC is under a current contract right now where I'm their point of contact. And I think any deviation from that, especially where there's no proposed funding or any plan that's been fleshed out, really, I think you need council's permission to even see if they want to pursue that.
Well, here's why. We don't even know if we want to pursue it. We want to start talking to them because this is kind of out of the box for us. We're not going to be talking about changing anything about the current contract at all. We're not entering into contract negotiations. We haven't been authorized through council yet. This is a discussion with them about a concept. And it's really for the commission to say, yeah, we're interested in having that discussion. And they've said, well, they will listen to it and tell us pros and cons to it. And that's it, Sylvia. We're not trying to alter a contract or take a route around council.
Well, no, I'm just, as I said in the committee, I think yesterday, I don't know, I have committees that run every day, is shifting the paradigm to council directs the work to the committees, not the committees direct the work to council. And so what's been happening, in my opinion, as I've been here and tried to dissect some of it, is exactly this right now. And it happens in P&E and it happens in CED. It's programs and things that are created, and then we get really excited for it, and then we get deflated because there's no funding or council doesn't agree that that's, you know, important. So I really would like, if you guys make this motion, that the liaison present it to council, if the liaison is so in support, before you guys go off and take a left turn at Albuquerque, as is my favorite turn.
Well, let me say again that we're not asking to create a liaison.
You have a liaison.
We're trying to get permission from the commissioners to even talk about this as a brainstorm with FSC, and that's all that we're doing, Sylvia. And I can't conceive that that would have to go to council.
Can I offer a friendly alternative motion, and that is that we motion to have Terry and Miles go on a fact-finding meeting with SFC to explore the potential of possibly having more engagement and more oversight and more all of this kind of stuff.
I'll just remind you, the fact-finding mission Miles went on with the burger place and what happened with that. Miles, do you recall?
No, burger place?
Yeah, the when we were talking about sponsors to Arts Fest.
Mighty Fine.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Mighty Fine, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I see James has a commentary.
Yes,
And
this
then-
is really confusing to me, because there seems to be a conflict in even approaching this without first going through council. And your request, I understand your request, and that's fine, but it just seems to be in conflict. What I'm hearing is that there's just probably no way to get around it before going to council first and getting the permission. Am I right in this?
I think there's a
I'd love to have
disagreement.
a brainstorming session with the council. I'd love to have something presented to the council first before we go down any particular path that, you know, may or may not materialize, just because I think the volunteers' time is very important, and I don't really want to waste any energy on something that isn't going to have the possibility of being supported.
We have the mayor and 2 council members here. Like, I get what Sylvia's saying. Like, can we get some backup from mayor and city council that, like, that's the direction that we should go?
And we have SFC participation.
So if
Okay.
I have 2 concerns as a council member. One of them is, and I'll give you an example with the marketing contract. A committee wanted to manage that, and council made a decision that the contract management should rest with council and the city administrator. So there's some precedent there. I don't believe a committee or a commission should be managing a contract that is a city contract. That's just my experience I've seen so far. So I love the idea of a collaborative relationship with SFC or whoever. We've had that relationship through ArtFest. Expansion of that would be lovely. I think exploring ideas. However, I know council has voted to even direct committees not to bring new projects forward, and that was for this fiscal year. It may be different as things change for next fiscal year. And the other question I have, and I think this would be a question for our legal counsel, is can a commission or committee that receives hot funds manage a vendor who also receives hot funds?
Yeah.
And I think that may be a conflict. So that's just a question.
Point of clarification. Managing should have been said oversight, like the Art Commission currently does with the Art Fest contract. The Art Commission does look at it. They provide oversight, but the staff manage the contract. So that's what we're talking about too, Karen. We're not talking about.
This wasn't clear that well.
They get paid a lot of money to do what they do, at least. Yeah. You know, they get
Giving you my thoughts,
paid
Terry.
for that job.
That's my thoughts as a council member. It's worth something or nothing. I'm just saying.
Oh no, it's worth a lot. My frustration with this is exactly why the mayor is on here. I wish she would say something.
I'm
It's a
waiting.
mic-
I have my hand up. I'm just waiting.
Oh, okay. Go
I was
Rose.
trying to be polite. Somebody told me today I talk too much.
I'm sorry. No, just kidding.
It wasn't you.
I
But
know.
it could be, it just as easily could have been you, Sylvia. Okay. I agree with what Karen just said. And I don't want to step on Terry's toes because I think Terry has really good intentions. He'd emailed me about this. I think anything where we grow the market, that really is the end result. Man, that's a win-win. It's a win for SFC. It's a win for us. It's a win for the rumors that I spent all day yesterday on the phone, emailing and talking to residents, trying to dispel the rumor that there were, well, and I can't speak for other council members, but that maybe I was behind an effort to get rid of SFC. I spoke with Joy today for an hour and a half, and I asked her to make sure she was on this call with Ben because I wanted to make sure as many SFC people were also in the room for tonight's meeting. But to echo what Karen just said, it doesn't hurt to take something to council, but it can definitely backfire if you don't. And so if you have an idea, before you go and reach out to anybody outside the city where you may be perceived as representing the city, get council's permission first, and then council can say, yes, do it, you have our blessing, we don't want to be involved. Or they can say, yes, do it, but we want your liaison and one other council member in the room. Or they can then say who they want to be in the room for that conversation so that there is a really good record, so that it's not just, in this example, Terry goes and has a meeting, he then comes back to the Arts Commission. And so, 2 or 3 meetings could happen and you guys are really rocking and rolling, and the only elected official who's even aware of it would be Karen. So I definitely agree with both Sylvia and Karen, and I also don't want to see SFC, who's struggling to succeed. I just heard Joy's number was 80%, and then when Ben spoke, he said 100%. That speaks volumes. I think that alone would be something for you guys to discuss, is if 100% of people visiting the market say we're going for fruits, vegetables, and things for our pantry, we need to, establish, is incorporating music and arts and crafts that are for sale, is that the best way to promote the arts? Zoe, I can't remember where, but Zoe Treef yesterday, she posted something somewhere where she also had some good ideas about how to incorporate art, landscaping. There are other ways we could potentially promote the market. And if we're going to have those conversations, you need to have elected officials either in the room or aware that those conversations are happening.
Terry.
Yeah, I'd like to modify my motion based on the mayor's remarks. I would like to move that the commission approve taking this concept to council for their discussion.
Okay.
Second that.
Do we have it's a second from Rob?
I just like to make sure.
More discussion here or not? When do we do that?
After the second. Before we vote.
It's 8:03.
Yeah.
But if you'd like time for discussion, we can do that.
I just like to make sure with Matt that that's enough information to put together a motion.
Yeah, so the motion from Terry is the Arts Commission approve taking this concept for the, I guess, are we calling it partnership with the farmers market concept to the city council for their discussion?
Yeah.
What are we calling, do we have a name for this concept?
Partnership sounds good.
Rob?
I'll second that.
Okay, now there's discussion.
Okay. Discussion, brief, because it's 8:04.
Okay, let me just say that it sounds to me like we're putting the cart before the horse if we go to council without us having just not discussed it a little more first, so that we go to them with some kind of a baked, to use this expression I keep hearing, instead of just some unbaked thing that they don't know what we're talking about. Why don't we give them something with a little clarity and then go to council and say, we've kind of, as a commission, we would like to explore this, instead of just letting council decide and cutting it off before it even gets any further than that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Well, I'm assuming people read the proposal and we did discuss it, so I'm not understanding.
Well,
I don't think
one of the
it's
things here
it's
is,
not happening.
one of the things is this thing about,
John, I think it's like, we have like a basic set of things to
hang
start.
on,
Okay.
knowledge of the, let's see. Where did I see this? It's the one about contract, which shouldn't be, in my opinion, shouldn't be us. It should be staff. But things like that are not worked out in our idea of this, from not only just the artists and the idea of one of my favorite, I don't know if anybody has been to the Santa Fe market. That's a wonderful market. It has some artists, but it's mostly food. But they also have cooking classes, they have demonstrations, they have all sorts of other things. So can't we first discuss how we could work with them to enhance the market and bring more people? Like, I'm very much in favor of this. You're laughing.
No, I'm smiling.
I'm
smiling
wondering if
because
what you're
that's how
thinking,
You
John,
think it's all worked
they
out and
told
it's
us
ready
we
to go to
couldn't talk to
council?
them. We had to go to council first.
You want to go to council with what you've written right now?
It sounds like where we are is that we are not ready to go to council because there needs to be
Terry
more
just said we were. Read this and we're ready to go.
I think like just to go to city council so that we could at least have an open discussion with the farmers market people. Our hands are kind of tied to decide what it can even be until we get city council's buy-in. So all we want to do is go to city council and get like their blessing. That's like, you can start talking to them. So it's like,
yeah,
and that's what we're saying. Like this is not the thing at all. Like I wouldn't even be in favor of this. I'm sure like Terry and Miles wouldn't even be in favor of this being the thing and they wrote it. It's just,
right.
We found out that we had to like go to talk to City Hall before we could do anything with SFC. So I think that's all we're looking for, John.
Yeah.
I
agree.
just want to have something to say. What?
I just wanted to point out there's a few folks with their hands raised on the
Yes.
digital hands. I didn't know if
Ah,
yeah. So it's Joy from SFC, Miles, and Troy all have their digital hands raised.
and Ruth has her manual hand raised. So why
Yes.
don't we start with her and then we'll go to the others.
They're going to you.
Ruth?
okay, I just wanted to briefly say that to Karen or Rudy or Rose, whoever is listening, do you feel we have enough of this idea fleshed out to bring to council so that they can give us a well thought through decision? Or do we need to get more? Because I heard it said earlier tonight, well, we don't have specifics. We need, so that we can act. So do we have that for you, or do we need to flesh it more?
So how about working with staff first because staff works with all the committees and they know, who's been talking to who, and so perhaps that would be the first place to kind of really hone down what it is that council may be receptive to, or that would be considered baked enough to go to council to discuss and give direction. But so I think, because when I'm as a council member, if I have an item that I'm putting on the agenda, my first step is to do my research. My second step is to bring all of that to the staff and put something together that the staff has already vetted and given me input on before I bring it to council for consideration. So that's the process that I need to go through before I put something on the agenda. And just FYI, the next couple agendas are pretty packed. So this probably wouldn't even go on an agenda until maybe the end of September. But that's what I would need as a council member. Just FYI.
So should we make a motion instead that Miles and Terry meet with Sylvia and create what is needed to go to council for their blessing to pursue this idea?
Are you?
I wonder if a first step is simply to see how many people want to pursue this idea at this time.
Sasha, could I say something? It's Rose. I'll be
Yes,
brief.
of course.
Ruth, my answer to your question would just be no. So no, I don't think it's ready. And what I would like to see as a council member, even sitting in this meeting, is I'd like to see more real deliberation between you all. So when it gets to the council level, part of what I look at is what deliberation occurred. Did y'all take a vote? Which parts did you all adopt? Which parts did you all, which doesn't mean that's where it will end up, but even within just listening to this think tank here, it doesn't seem clear from the think tank what parts of it you all think are great.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you, Rose.
Who seconded it? Did Robert? Rob, did you second?
I did.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Yeah, I will defend the idea that, like, you know, we're not the only ones making, I think the spirit of it was like, go to SFC and just be like, hey, what makes sense? Like a friendly conversation. Yeah. No, and all of a sudden it turned into like, no, you got to have city council buy-in. And then it's like, well, no, you guys aren't even ready for that. It's just like, well, the first thing we wanted to do was just talk to SFC and determine like what we could possibly do. And that way we said no. And then it's like, what can you bring to city council? Nothing. So I guess we'll tighten it up and still not be able to talk to SFC until it's like a lot of ways to present something to SFC. We go,
I don't want to make it like, you know, you're going to take your toys out of the sandbox and go away. Not at all. But my point is, it's got to have council approval, and there's a process to get it to council. And that's what Karen's trying to explain. It's not obstacle after obstacle. There is a process to get things there, because there are things that have been waiting, that have been cooking to get there. And then inside the recipe that the council is going to look at is, how was the vote taken? What you don't recall, maybe some of you do or don't recall, CED had taken a vote, and then what was presented to council was modified a little bit. Council then rescinded that vote and brought it back, and then changed that original motion, because that exact thing happened. There was some change between what was voted on and what was put into the agenda. So
we weren't even trying to do anything. We were just trying to get permission to like brainstorm.
That's exactly. This has turned into kind of like a.
But you don't even know if your committee wants you to do that. You don't even have support from the committee yet. I guess you should take a vote to see if they even want you to do that.
Well, that was one of the suggestions I had, is whether we would like to go ahead and take a vote about pursuing this dialogue further at this time. And then we can hash out the details of, do we need to go to council first, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Ruth, and I understand there were some other people that electronically have their hands raised. So Ruth, go ahead.
I so move that we take a vote on whether this concept is something that a committee as a whole wants to continue to pursue, and if so, that we table it in light of the time till our next meeting to hash out all the nitty gritties to take to staff and council and whatever. I hope you got that, Matt. So the vote is, do we pursue this or not? And should we decide to pursue it, then I guess maybe we need a second motion to say, can it be now not pursued any longer? Can we table this agenda item till next time?
Yeah, motion for the commission to take a vote on whether this concept is something the commission as a whole wants to pursue. And if yes, then table this item until a future meeting.
Yeah.
Next meeting. Yeah.
I would second that motion.
Steve?
Chair, second a motion?
I did.
Oh, I didn't know if the chair could do that.
You said you would, but you didn't.
Oh, I do.
Well, I'll second it then.
Okay. I'll second that emotion. All right, so can we have a vote on that particular motion at this point? And I do apologize for the fact that apparently I wasn't aware of how dynamic this discussion was, but I believe it will continue. Definitely. So
we're going to table it for right now. Is a motion.
well, that's the
The
motion.
the motion is if you say yes, then you are saying you want to talk about it at a later time. If you say no, then you want it taken off the table entirely
All right.
and not
Yeah.
talked about anymore.
Okay. So why don't we run a vote on that?
Okay. Do you want me to call the roll?
Yes, Matt, please.
All right. Okay. So, and everyone just is clear on the motion, correct? Everyone's just, okay. I see nods. All right. James.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Karen, you don't vote. Miles.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Rob.
Aye.
Ruth.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
Sasha.
Aye.
Terry.
Yeah. Okay.
And Troy.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, and John, did I get your vote?
No, but I
Joe.
made a motion, but now I've changed my mind. No, yes, I say yes.
Okay. All right. The motion passes. So the motion to pursue the concept, yes, but also then to table this until a future meeting.
But not a long time future meeting, like the next meeting.
We could say, yeah, so next meeting.
Okay. That's good. That's very good.
That was
So-
my intent, was next meeting.
Good. Okay.
I'll put next meeting, Ruth. That's what you said. Until the
Excellent.
next.
Appreciate you, Matt.
Matt's amazing. He makes it feel like I'm not in Wisconsin. Anyway, it is now 8:18. We had 2 agenda items left, and I believe that Rob had a suggestion about those items.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest, it seems like number 7 is the smaller group of me, Joe, and John could kind of take that and bring something back for the next meeting. It's just short-term ideas. So we still have to have that meeting. Seems like 7's covered by that. I don't know if it has to be a whatever, but like number 9, it could just be like a subgroup for longer-term ideas.
So I want a motion that the subgroup for the short-term ideas, we take this number 7 off the table and give it back to that subgroup and have them do their work on it for next meeting.
Got it.
I second that.
And we're clear what that is, by the way. That was just language I made up about.
Oh, agenda item 7.
Yeah, but I mean, we're clear about what it means to think of free ways to bring art and culture.
Beg, borrow, and steal.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
So to look at that short term, come up with it's free or very close to free.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that what you meant?
Yes.
Yep.
Pursue ideas where you can keep arts alive without asking for budget money.
Right. And I know that bring culture to the people that do not cost memory per se or money per se is not good grammatically. I think probably it was a rapidly written item, but yes, that's it.
So it was a motion for the short-term ideas group to take and look at agenda item number 7 and possibly bring those ideas back at the next meeting. That
Yes.
was a motion by Ruth And who seconded it? James?
I did. I did.
Yeah,
Okay.
James.
Thank you, James. And Ruth.
And Sylvia gave me everyone's contact information now, so
Yay.
I can now pester y'all.
So quick vote on this one.
Rob,
Aye.
that was an aye from
Rob?
Joe and Ruth. I saw them thumbs up. Terry?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Sasha?
Aye.
Roy?
Aye.
James?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes.
All right. Motion passes.
Excelente. Okay, and did you have a different idea, Rob, about the action item number 4?
Just need volunteers for a long-term group of,
I believe that Terry was one of the people who initially volunteered for that many months ago.
my thought is, or like my like standing whatever rule is, if I see brainstorm in any of the agenda items, it should be a subgroup. So, because we can really talk.
Yes.
So I may be really off the target on what I'm sensing in our group, but I'm motioning that we table indefinitely agenda item 9, action item 4, because the discussion that we have about the 2 motions previous about the SFC work and whatever it is that the subgroup brings to us could very well fill our time. So I'm wondering if this long-term stuff, especially since we don't have much certainty about the long-term, if we can just table that for now for an indefinite time. So my motion is to table agenda item 9, action item 4 for an indefinite amount of time.
I second that. I second it.
I would prefer to see it not be indefinite because since we have a bit of a fallow period right now, because we're not focusing on Art Fest, that we should be thinking future pull. And so I'd like to say table it for 3 months or come revisit it, you know, after budget is complete or something like that.
Okay, so I would like to amend my motion to say instead of indefinite, a future commission meeting, not to include the next one.
Yeah. Within the, let's say within the quarter.
Okay, within, well,
The next quarter.
okay, within the next 3 months or less.
Yeah.
So that's 2 or 3 months.
Whatever Ruth decided, I'll second it.
Me too.
Okay, so I
within the next 2 to 3 months, but not next month. So
Make it
October or
within
November.
4.
and revisit within the next 3 months. How does that?
Yes.
That sounds good.
Seconded by James. All right. Rob.
We show hands the same
Yeah,
time, or there's
Everyone
discussion?
say aye. That's in favor of the motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
All right, John lost.
That was an aye for John, right? Not an opposed, right?
What? Oh,
You're in favor of that motion, right, John?
I am.
Okay. All right.
So I realize this was a difficult meeting, but I hope that we are going to be able to keep on moving forward with the exciting idea presented by Terry and Miles, and also, you know, achieve what we want to do, what we want to achieve in terms of our budget and outcomes. And so thank you all for your really hard work. Are there any other final words of wisdom for the group prior to saying adios?
I've just got a little comment for Rob.
Yeah.
Rob, next time your little girls come by here to look at the zebra, I've got some little ducks for them. Some little metal ducks for them.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say real ducks. I was like,
No.
All right, cool.
All
Motion to
right,
adjourn.
thank you all. And thank you especially Terry and Miles for your hard work.
Welcome.
Arrivederci until next month.
Motion to
Alright.
adjourn. Do we have to do that?
Hey, y'all.
Oh, yes, we do. I'm sorry.
Motion that we adjourn.
Yes.
Second.
I second.
And all approve. Aye.
Aye.
Adios, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Good night.
Let's see. Bye, Terry.